Life doesn't always go according to plan. Sometimes it breaks you. After a training accident left me paralysed from the neck down, I had to rebuild my body, my mind and my life. I'm Ryan Curtis, and every episode we dig into the chaos that shapes who we become. So welcome to this episode of Made in Chaos with me, Ryan Curtis. I have a really good friend of mine, a man who helped me when I was at some of the lowest points in my life, stand-up comedian and all-round legend, Willa White.
Thanks very much, Ryan. It's an honour and a privilege to be here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, pal, and I really mean that. Thanks so much for all. And I was a lot of the times when I was away with my recovery and stuff, you were on the other end of the phone, and you really helped me get through a lot of the dark times there. So
yeah, well, come here, look at the Beatles say, I get by with a little help from my friends, and when you're in the pits, when I know for me, from my past, when I'm in the pits and stuff, some people will either hang around with you or other people will leave you, do you know what I mean? And sometimes the people that leave you just don't know what else to do, they can't cope with what's going on. It's a little bit overwhelming, it's a little bit kind of daunting, and they just kind of bolt.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And others bolt for different reasons, but you always kind of, it's a great leveler for any human being when they're in times of trouble, especially like what you went through. Like your struggle to mine was an awful lot different. Like people bleeding willingly left me because of the, pardon the pun, but the bleeding chaos that I caused in my life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So
what do you think? It was just too much to be around you at that point, or?
I was just, come here, I was very, very difficult to be around when you've got, especially family as well. They try to do so much for you, and the advice I always give to people that, that have family members that are suffering with addiction, whether it's alcoholism or whether it's drugs or whatever it might be, is just be there for them. Don't enable them. Don't give them money. Don't run after them. Do you know what I mean? Don't, be there to wipe the hole, so to speak. Just say, look, I'm here for you. I love you. And when the pain gets too bad and you want to put the white flag up, and as I always say, surrender to win. Sometimes you got to surrender to win. And I couldn't comprehend what that meant for a long time, but now I understand what it was. So when the individual is ready to accept and take responsibility for his or her actions and look for help, that's what you do. You give the help then. Money is only, and I say that, I say don't give them money, but I'd be guilty sometimes of meeting people in the street and having money in my pocket and giving them money, And realistically, it's probably preventing someone from getting their money took on them.
Yeah.
When you give them a few quid. So I can justify myself. And now that when I use drugs, jeez, I'd loving someone to walk up and give me a few bob, do you know what I mean? It's very, very, very seldomly happened, So it's about just being there, being present, letting the individual know, look, I'm here for you. When you do want the help and you've had enough, call me and we'll get you the help.
Yeah, because I listen to a guy sometimes, Simon Sinek is his name, and he does talk about sometimes, when he's going through a hard time, he doesn't necessarily really want anybody to give him advice or whatever. He just wants people to, he calls it, to sit in the mud with him, do you know what I mean? To just be there, but not kind of, here's what you should do, Simon, or here's what I done in that situation. Just kind of be there for them, because going back to what you were saying there earlier about, taking responsibility, because obviously I have family members who have had drug addictions in the past and stuff, and one thing that I really gather is, and I always say it, is nobody's really willing to change until, they say to themselves, I can't make any of my family members change or whatever. They need to want it for themselves,
Yeah, when do you know when the rock bottom's the rock bottom? The time I decided to get my life together, I was in much more worse situations than that. I like a selection box of rock bottoms. I could open the bleeding box and go, was it this one? Was it that one? Was it this one here? Was it that one there?
So there was no one. This is.
No, I just, what? I felt it's like when the apple is ripe, it's gonna fall from the tree, and I just think that everything enlined together when it was meant to enline. And the time was right, and I got a moment of clarity, and I just thought about, what am I actually going to do with my life, when I get out of jail, I didn't want to use anymore. I was sick and tired of it. I was underweight. I was battered. I was broken. Like, I describe my addiction like getting into the ring with Mike Tyson every day. Like, every morning I was getting into that ring and I knew I was getting battered, but addiction just had me in a headlock all the time, that when I woke up in the morning I got dragged in, like, and I knew it was the same results every time I got in there. I was getting battered, I was getting knocked out, I was getting battered, and then one morning I just says, you know what, I'm not getting in the ring today, like, I'm gonna stay outside the ring and I'm gonna see what happens and see where my life goes. And it was the best decision that I ever made, and asking for help. And I always say to anybody, no matter what situation you're in life, like the amount of young men and old men and people on the whole and women that have taken their own lives, that thought that they had a problem, when there's loads of solutions to that problem. Like, they just don't air it and don't put it out there, and they think, you know, things are going to be better if we get off the bleeding merry-go-round of life, like, and everyone. They just don't look at the bigger picture and see what hurt that they're going to cause and the people that's going to be left behind. Like, you know, it's...
Yeah, 'cause, you know, one thing that kind of, like, you know, I've never had a drug addiction or anything like that. Probably got through with seeing everybody in my family and going, like, that's absolutely what I don't want, you know. But one thing that I always kind of wondered is like, when I was looking at them going through everything, it was just so frustrating for me to look in, going, like, how are you not frustrated that you keep on letting yourself down, and not even letting everybody else around you down, but just letting yourself down? Like, what's that feel like, the frustration, you know? Because it must be like, are you conscious of that when you're going through it all? Like, is it a thing where you're kind of like, fuck's sake, like, I just keep on letting myself down and I just wish I could just stop? Or what does that feel like?
Yeah, it's a feeling of powerlessness, I suppose. I suppose it's like, it'd be like you going in for a fight when you were actively fighting and being told, look, we're going to cable tie your hands behind your back,
Right,
like,
okay, yeah.
and you just standing there and trying to do what you can with your feet, but now you're going to get battered, like. Like, that's how strong the addiction was, like. And I didn't really have... I was in a circle, and I was in a spiral of addiction, and I was surrounded by negative people that were doing negative things, and I was surrounded by wannabe bleeding gangsters and criminals, and, you know, everyone
so
was...
it's just a vicious circle, like.
Everyone was talking bleeding millions and hadn't got a penny, like. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that was the reality.
Champagne lifestyle.
On lemonade wages, yeah. Like, so it was just that. I didn't know anybody that was clean. To me, clean was like a methadone maintenance and getting on a clinic. But I had no... Like, all my role models were bleeding, were wasters, like. That's the best way to put it. Like, I'd nobody that I kind of looked up to and went, Jesus, he's got a job and he drives a nice car. I want to aspire to be that. Because I didn't know what I was getting into realistically when I... Look, I knew what drugs done, but I didn't know what addiction was like. Like, I didn't know what it was like to be dependent on a drug every day, and that if you didn't have that drug, you were going to be physically and mentally sick, like. Do you know what I mean? So when the drug takes... It's like when you get up in the morning and your whole life is controlled by a bag or a liquid or a tablet, you're in trouble, like.
Yeah.
And it's very, very hard to break the cycle, to get away from it. And like, so many of my mates, like, are dead. So many of my mates have took their own lives. So many of them are still... And I say mates, I don't say friends, like, you know, I say it very loosely. Are still on methadone maintenance.
Because they're kind of just acquaintances now?
Yeah,
or?
well, they were never really friends in the first place. They were just people that
you'd done drugs
with. They were just like people, like... It's like when you turn up on a bleeding football team of a Sunday, it was just like 10 lads I played ball with and just left then. Like, like, there was never any... You know, there was never any bleeding solidarity or people that kind of were there for you. Or, you know, when I went to jail, no one was coming to visit me, like.
It's like people who go out partying all the time and then they stop partying and then they realise that they've kind of nothing in common, or them people who they were partying with were never really there for them in the first place. They were just people who they partied with.
Yeah, that's the truth, like, you know. you hook up with anybody when you're on drugs. Like I didn't care who I used with or where I used. My main objective every day when I woke up in the morning was to score. And I didn't care.
That was the main objective.
Yeah, I didn't care what it took or who I hurt or and I was never and I always say this, I was never a violent fella. I could probably count on my hand the amount of fights I've been in my life. Do you know what I mean? I always kind of shied away. I was only talking to my neighbour earlier on about this, and I was saying to her, I seen that much violence when I was a kid from my father, God be good to him, onto my mother and to me and my sister, that I didn't like violence. Yeah. I didn't like what it done. I didn't like the noise of people screaming, or I didn't like the sight of blood or coming out of people, and it just kind of, in a way, I was a very soft kind of young fella growing up. I was never one of these fellas. I always had a soft spot for kids that were getting bullied. I was never the bully, and I always kind of, tried to shelter people, from harm that was going on. Like there was just that kind of, even through me using, like there was still a kind of, just a small bit of niceness left in me,
And you think that was just because you had seen the effects of everything, like as in violence and stuff like that, yeah?
Yeah, I think for a child to witness violence at a very young age is a very, very traumatic experience. The kids that are 3 and 4 aren't meant to see stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's stuff that any child should be sheltered from. But my dad was dealing with his own demons and had no other way to channel them at all, and that was his answer. It was drink, violence, and he was hurt. It's like that saying, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for me dad, his me ma was in the line of fire, and so was myself, my sister a lot of the time. So it was like we just kind of tried to play the best hand with the bad cards that we were dealt.
Yeah, it's so you were talking earlier on about just Ballymun and stuff like that, and obviously I'm from town, but what was it like to grow up in like the 80s and the 90s and even the 2000s in Ballymun? Because I didn't really go out there till a little bit, like just seeing friends and whatever as I was getting a little bit older, but I didn't really see it till near enough the end of the flats. But I'd say like living in the flats and stuff was, well, I'd say it was some buzz, to be honest.
Yeah, it was. Come here, look at him. I was born in 71, the year of the pig, the 17th of the 6th, 71.
The year of the pig.
Yeah. So I grew up obviously with violence at home, and I wasn't stupid in school. But I that much stuff going on at home that I found it very hard to absorb an education. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, come here, I can read, I can write, and I'll try my best to hold a conversation with people and stuff like that, but I was always elsewhere in school. I was never in school. So growing up for me, like I was in the era where there was no mobile phones. Do you know what I mean? I come from an era where a fella stood at a payphone in the flats in Ballymun, and if someone rang, there was 2 people at the payphone. So when the phone call was made, they'd say, will you go up to the O'Grady's in 156 Shangan Road? So he ran and got the family, and the other fella held the phone. Class. And then the family would come down to the phone, they'd give you a man 10s or 5s or whatever, and it was a great number, and the lads that were well able to fight and well able to scrap, they were the ones that looked after the phone.
Right, okay.
So like the 80s, like 70, the 70s, I remember like a bit of them, but the corporal punishment in schools stopped in 1982.
Okay.
And in 1982, that was the worst year for corporal punishment.
Because
and I'll tell you,
they knew it was coming to an end?
No, because the Rocky film came out that year. And that was the #1 song for 6 weeks, was Eye of the Tiger. Right. So all the teachers thought they were bleeding Rocky Balboa, so you got the bollocks knocked out.
Mickey screaming,
Like, it's mad when you think, like, that's 1982, that movie was out. And I remember that movie, and I remember The Champ as well. Did you see The Champ?
What you mean, The Champ?
The film that called The Champ about the boxer.
No.
Oh, man.
No, never seen The Champ, no.
Oh, come here and I'll tell you.
Never even heard of it, to be honest.
You need to see this movie.
Right,
so it's a boxing movie as well.
Right, before
and it's
Rocky?
about a boxer, right, who was an alcoholic,
Right, okay.
right? And he puts the drink aside and he gets another crack at the whip.
Class.
Oh, come here. I cry every time I watch it.
Yeah, little.
It's a very, very touching story, and it's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I remember watching, I think that was in the 70s, that movie. I'll probably Google it after here. But I grew up in that era where you just went out in the morning. Like, I never, like, even through the winter and the summer holidays, I was never in the house. Like, I was always out.
But I'd say there was a good togetherness back then because of, you know what I mean? Did you feel like that, like, there was more of a connection with people back then because of the lack of kind of, maybe I suppose because there wasn't as much to do then because funds were low and there was no social media and phones and stuff like that.
Do you
So,
know what?
like, I'd say there was some good times is what I mean.
They were better times.
Yeah,
they
I'm
were
sure,
much better. There was great friendships. There was like it was a different, like,
It
I
seemed
think,
like the community, to be honest, was a lot better then.
yeah,
That's what it seems like.
100%. Like, and you hear all that thing, you know, people are, you know, you could literally walk in and out of people's gaffs.
Yeah,
like, there was none.
yeah.
There was none of that. I think things really started to change in Dublin in the early 80s, mid 80s, when the heroin epidemic hit the city. Like, things
Yeah,
started
heavy,
to change
yeah.
for all the working class areas. The inner city got floored. Got took, North inner city and South inner city, Trees Gardens, all these places, because it was handy. There was no employment, so
Yeah.
it was a great escape for people.
Yeah, escapism,
Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? To get a bleeding, and a bag of gear back then was like 40 quid. Like, do you know
Was
what I
it?
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's
That
how
would have
much it
been
was.
like expensive enough anyway.
Yeah,
you know what I
very
mean?
expensive, but they knew what they were doing, the people that were selling the drugs. But I mean, before all that, like, I'd have been out and I'd be on horses as a young fella, robbing horses, and had a dog and bleeding. You know, it was just, you were just out all the time. There was always something
Yeah,
to do, like,
yeah.
do you know what I mean? Summer projects and going away for a week down the country with lads and camping, and just, I think mobile phones in the era that we're in, I mean, I'm guilty of it, and a lot of people are guilty of it. I'm wasting my life a lot of the time looking at people living their life on a bleeding device
Yeah, of course.
in my
yeah.
hand, like, you know.
And you're just saying everybody's, like, I think even me and you were talking about this before, where you're just saying everybody's highlight reel, which isn't really, like, it's not really real life. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
everybody has, they definitely do have ups in life, but they also have a lot of downs, and nobody is showing the downs. And one thing that I kind of, my gripe with it is the younger kids kind of looking at other people on it and going like, oh, why doesn't my life look like that? Why am I not doing all these great things? And it's like, their life isn't really like that. They're just showing you the best parts, and for the most part, it's fake, you know?
Yeah, you can fabricate what you want
Yeah,
on
of
social
course,
media.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You can put on a bleeding Rolex watch and you can
Exactly,
say, I'm
yeah.
living a great life.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and I mean, realistically, the camera goes off and you're bleeding there depressed out of your mind, like,
Yeah.
you know? So it there's a lot of fakeness in it.
Mm.
There's a lot of people, you know, that present themselves to be something that they're not, like, you
Yeah.
know? It's very hard to get people that are real on social media, like, so. And I mean, I use it. It's a platform. It's a great tool.
it's
It's,
a-
great
yeah.
if you're doing a gig or you're doing something and you want to promote something. Like, I have a gig on Friday, and before I come out, I done a video in the gaff, and, you know, hopefully that pushes a few tickets. So, I mean, it's free advertisement,
Yeah.
really.
Well, the reality is, if you're not using it, you're falling behind.
100%.
You know, and even with me, like, I was actually only saying this to somebody the other day, like, I get such good, like, the videos that I put up are so well received by people, and they always say, like, oh, your videos really help me, but I'm somebody who needs to be kind of more disciplined to do social media, because when I'm with somebody, I like to be present, and I don't like to have my phone out and go like, oh, I'm just here with Willa, and, you know,
Yeah,
like, but
yeah.
again, it's kind of, it's paradox, because when you don't do it, then you're falling behind, and it does have a great, like, return, you know what I mean? The more, like, when you do it, like, you know, it pays dividends, you know?
Yeah, look, come here, look, if you're in any type of entertainment, or, you know, whether you're a fighter or whether you're a comedian or whether you're an up and coming actor or whether you're a, you know, an influencer
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever it might be, if you have not got media content and you're not putting out stuff and churning stuff all the time, you're forgotten about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the next person comes in and just consumes you.
Yeah,
and they're going, oh, do you remember your man Ryan Curtis? Or do you remember your man Willa White? He used to be. And some people are going, no, I actually, what was this?
Well,
do you know what I'm saying? Like, so you have to try. And I'm terrible at it. I'm not great at social media.
No.
I can get a video up and I can do this, that, and do that, but I'd love it to be able to, to get maybe one of my daughters could just show me how to freshen her up and how to get content a bit better and what to do with it. Like, but I'm a little bit of a bleeding dinosaur when it comes to stuff like that.
To be honest, because I don't actually enjoy doing it in terms of like I like the benefits and stuff of it. But I would like somebody, to be honest, to kind of follow me around and do it for me and post it and edit it. That'd be ideal. I know that's not always realistic, especially when you haven't just got the money to just do stuff like that. But that would be ideal for me, because sometimes with me as well, I don't always necessarily enjoy doing it, and that's why sometimes I have gaps between, like I'll post loads and then I don't, and then I post. I need to be more consistent, but sometimes for me it's a little bit selfish because I get approached so much, especially at speaking engagements, or if I'm going down the street and they're like, oh, your video really helped, and then I'm like, oh, maybe I should be doing more of that if it's going to help people. So sometimes with me I'm like, I should do more, but it's
and it's not that as well. I think for people that put up real positive content online, it's hard for them to put up something negative, because some people, not all people, but some people don't want to see that. But it's good to also show people. I mean, look, if you're a real, a positivity guru and, you're putting up positive stuff, whether it is. But I mean, I think on the days when the chips are down and things are wrong, if you put up something like people go, and not everybody, I think it's good to let people see the real side of you as well, like, because we are what we are, like, not every day is bleeding, is champagne and bleeding, tiptoe through the tulips. We're all human. I mean, even, some of the biggest content creators that are online have a shit day. It's not just because you're popular or you might have a load of money or not like that doesn't mean you're exempt from bleeding things going wrong in your life.
Yeah, well, you know yourself. It's like it's money just solves your money problems. You still have another set of problems, and I know that from talking to really wealthy people, because I'm be very curious person, so I'd be like, oh, what does money? Not like I'd never ask a question like, oh, how much money do you have, or nothing like that, but I'd be like, these people are driving serious cars, so they have money, so you're like, oh, what does money do for your life? And I've been told by so many of them, it's like, my daughter is still going through that stage of her life where she thinks she knows everything, and we're going back and forward, and then I've had arguments with my wife. It's just like, so you still all have the problems, Yeah,
it's very, that's very, very true. And something happened to me yesterday morning. I was in work and I was over there. I'm not going to say where I was, because it probably, people could probably put two and two together, but I met a person, and I'm not going to say whether it was a woman or a man, and I bid hello, and whatever happened, I ended up crossing the road and I ended up talking to this person.
Yeah.
Because I'm a real people person anyway, and I find it easy to talk to people, and just struck up a conversation with this person, and after about 5 minutes, he was... Well, it's kind of out now that it's a he. He was telling me about, stuff that was going on in his life and stuff that was going on with his family and a bit of personal stuff and things like that. And I kind of opened up a little bit about stuff about me. And this guy was, was really well-to-do, lived in a really, really nice house. And he was saying it to me. He says, don't let the house fool you. He says, and, that I have this and I have that. He says, I still have stuff going on in my life.
Yeah.
He says, and in my family, that money is never going to erase. Do you know what I'm saying?
But I think it's only really the people who don't have money, and I don't have money. I have to save up to be broke, for fuck's sake, But I'm saying, it's like, I think just a lot of people who are financially struggling, they're just thinking, oh, when I get that bit of money, all my problems is going to go away. And it's not until, like, and I've only figured out from speaking to people with money, and they're like, absolutely not.
Come here, it makes your lifestyle and it makes things a little bit more comfortable and gives you a little bit of security, but it doesn't keep you exempt from the stuff that's going on in life.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not going to stop you from getting sick.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Look at me. I'm an example. Like, I could have been a bleeding billionaire and went out that day and paralysed from the neck down. Like, so what good is any amount of money?
Look at
you know
there's
what I
a
mean?
prime example. Look at Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, look what
Cancer.
he done.
Yeah.
Like, and at the end of the day, like, what's it they say? They say you think you have problems and then you get a health problem and then
you
you've
only have
one
one
problem.
problem, yeah.
Like, and you know that from a personal experience from someone that was lying in a hospital bed, like, that had your wits about you, but wasn't able to move your bleeding toes or any part of your body.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I can only imagine what that's like to be lying there in that prison in your mind and go, am I actually going to get out of this? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a scared and lonely place to fucking be. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
you know, and everything you had before that, and I mean, in an instant with that happening to you, like, your whole life and the course of your life just completely changed.
Yeah.
You know, the wind and the sails got blew in a completely different direction than the one that you were going in a moment before that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In a freak accident.
It's just mad, I think, how fast everything can change. You know, I was always very grateful for life. Like, you know, we've talked about gratitude with you and I before, but, you know, I was always very grateful for everything that I had, but there was still part of me that didn't really know that it could be taken away as fast like that. You know, just in the blink, like one day I'm living my life, kissing my daughter goodbye to go training, and I just never came home that night. You know, that was the one thing that kind of was like, it took me a little bit of adjusting to get used to, like, how is this my life now? You know, I remember I used to wake up some of the mornings in the hospital and I'd be like, oh, it's not a dream, this is my life. I remember having a load of them mornings where I was sitting there and thinking that, you know, it's like, oh, this is not a bad dream, this is my actual life. Because I'd wake up and I'd be like, part of my brain had wanted to be a dream, and then obviously then I, like, after a couple of seconds of waking up, I'd realise, oh, it's not a dream, this is, you still can't move at from the neck down, you know.
Yeah, I used to get that when I used to get arrested when I was using whatever it was for, whether it was shoplifting or whatever, or I got, you know, took in on wardens and I knew I was going to jail. Like, I used to be in the police station underneath the blanket, closing my eyes and saying, when I open my eyes up, I'm going to be at home. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you're not, like, do you know what I mean? It's the reality is that I was where I was, you know, because of my own actions. But I mean, it's completely different for you. Like, you know, you went into that gym that morning with the intention of just bleeding, having a roll with somebody and doing what you do every other day and thinking it wasn't going to be any different.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, in one move, like I was the creator kind of my destiny in a sense. I could have stopped all the hurt and all the pain years before, but it was never to happen. Like, as I said earlier on, when you're ready, you're ready. Like,
but still, it's like, it's very hard to read the label from inside the bottle, I'd say, sometimes, because you're saying, like, you could have stopped it years before and whatever, but I couldn't imagine when you were going through that, you know, that you actually wanted to be going through it. Do you know, I'd say if you could have stopped that at that point, you would have been all up for it, you know? Or am I wrong?
Yeah, no, I like that to me was very, very attractive. Like, when I was using, like, I would have, a lot of the time when I was using, would have hoped, like, that the next turn on that I put into me or the next injection that I had had been really, really happy to check out. Like, that's
Really,
yeah, 100%.
I got to that point.
Do you know, I just hadn't got the balls to put a rope around my neck and kick a chair from underneath me. I hadn't got that. Like, even though when I was in London in a psychiatric hospital, I done it once, like, but I knew what that was, and I had a little bit of clarity and a little bit of understanding to know that if I done that, even though, you know, I was, and I say lightly, just a drug addict, that there'd have been tears shed over me, and my family would have, you know, would have been really, really upset, like, you know.
What was it at that point, do you kind of recall that you felt that way, that you wanted to do that? Was there any specific, was it just because you were lost in life, or what kind of, why did you feel like that you wanted that?
Just like probably a mix of a lot of things, just a lot of trauma and the addiction and the the groundhog day of every day, getting up, doing the same bleeding thing, the sickness and the thing that, that mates of mine that would OD, and I would think, Jesus, they're out of misery, like. Do you know what I mean? They don't have to get up in the morning and go through what I have to go through, and like you'd be self-pitying yourself as well, in a sense, like, but looking for an answer sometimes, looking for a solution to sometimes that you just thought that there wasn't. Like, I thought, look, I knew nobody that was in recovery and that was totally drug-free and lived a life. And there was.
You couldn't even point to anybody and go, oh, he's at the doing it.
No, I couldn't. Because you see, the thing about it was, right, is that even when I came into recovery and I was going to meetings and looking after my recovery, I seen blokes that I used with years ago. That when you get out of that circle, because what happens is people come into recovery, right? So it's people, places and things they say will bring you back.
Yeah.
So people go, right, well, I'm not going to stay here anymore. Even though I always say this, look, Ballymun was never my problem. I was the problem.
Yeah.
Right, so I knew the problem began with me. But still at the same time, a lot of people got out of the area where they lived and they changed their friends and they start getting a life and they get a job and they do other things, like. So they're not in the area. So I'd either think, one, they were in prison, or two, probably wouldn't even think about them at all.
Yeah, they just weren't.
Yeah, or three, just think that they were probably gone to another country. And it was mad when I start going to a 12-step program, that when I went into meetings, I'd see, they'd go, what's the story? And I'd be, second looking at them going, what the and you'd be going, I'm here 3 years, like, I bleeding.
And you just...
You wouldn't even know.
They were at the going out of your head at that point?
100%, because look, come here, our sight, our mind, like, when you're not seeing people that you used to be with, sure, I other things to be worried about than these people I used to use with, man.
Yeah.
I needed to get 20 quid, like, that was the bleeding... what seems like such a big feat to get 20 bleeding euros or £20 to get a bag, like, was a mountain to climb every day, like.
Yeah, but it was like, did you ever see that study where the American soldiers, when they were in Vietnam, they were strung out on opioids, and then when they went back to America, they just got off a handy because I suppose the habits and getting up every day, they weren't seeing the same people, they probably weren't talking to the same people who are using, they probably weren't seeing the drug dealers or whatever it may be, so I think getting out of the environment, and I'll speak from personal experience, my brother, he's clean 5 years, we got him over to Liverpool and into a rehab over there, and I always tell the story that, the day we are kind of getting him into rehab, we were at the bottom of Parnell Tree, and by the time you're at to getting to the top of Parnell Tree, there must have been about 15 or 16 different drug addicts coming over going, oh, how are you, blah, blah, blah. And I remember just looking at him going, like, if you ever come back here, this is going to be you. You're never going to outrun this, so you need to stay over in Liverpool. And he's 5 years clean, he's married, just a little family over there, everything magic.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that your brother is over there. Yeah. My mate Eric to do the podcast where he's on in Hot Water Comedy Club tonight.
Right, in Liverpool?
Yeah, so they've built this big complex over there. Paul Smith and a few of the lads, and they've made a few different comedy venues in this place. You can have food and all a whole lot. But Liverpool is I lived on the Wirral on a place called the Ford Estate across the river in across the Mersey on the Wirral, and like even back then when I was over there, I worked for Lever Brothers and I was a recreational drug user, and kind of had the lid on things, so to speak.
Then?
Like, yeah.
Was it heroin that you were on, or what was?
Yeah, it was heroin. And no, when I lived there at that time, I wasn't using smack and I wasn't using crack around like that. I was just kind of smoking weed and drinking and stuff like that. But I was always constantly using something.
So was that before you would have been on heavy drugs?
Yeah, before I was on heavy drugs. Okay. Yeah. So, and that was the year. That was the last year my man and dad stayed together. They split up after that, like, Right. But that was on the cards for ages, and anyway, So, I don't know. It didn't, as I said to you earlier on, no matter where I went, when I went to different countries or different places, I lived in different towns, I always brought myself with me.
Yeah.
So that was the problem. Like, the problem was me. Like,
yourself.
Yeah. Like it didn't, like, I knew that when I went into any city, the first thing I'd look for is a big issue seller.
Yeah.
or someone that you should come here. People that are on drugs know people who are on drugs.
Right, okay,
Like
yeah.
one Queen Bee knows another bleeding Queen Bee, like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So you just approach them people
And that's something that you would have at that point actively gone and seek, you know.
yeah, of course it is. Yeah, yeah. Like, like when I went to London before I got extradited home, like my life was just in turmoil. Like I was really in a bad place. I was running, you know, I was on the run. I went over and me poor ma, God be good to her. Like my ma was living a really decent life over in London, had a nice flat, and I just come over and it was like, what the fuck, like. Do you know what I mean? I brought all my problems with me
Yeah.
and
Yeah, like she
everything,
was,
and kind of dumped them on me ma. And me ma got be good to her, like just tried to do her best for me, but didn't understand like what she was actually dealing with.
Yeah.
Because she'd been away for a good few years. Like my mum stayed in London from when I tried to take me life in the psychiatric hospital when I was 19, like, do you know what I mean? So she'd been there for a good few years, like, and never
Yeah.
kind of witnessed having to live with me. Now she came home lots of times and I used to meet her. I remember meeting her one time in a cafe in Ballymun shopping centre, and I was strung out to bits. And my main objective was not to see me ma, but was just to bleed and try extract a few bob out of her, like, you know.
Yeah.
And me ma's sitting in the cafe looking at me, and I'm dying sick and in a bad way, and you know, me mental health isn't great, me hygiene isn't great. I'm very, very unstable in life, and me ma's just fucking devastated.
Yeah,
like.
yeah, of course, because
You know, and even though she's crying in front of me, I don't see the whole,
Yeah.
like, I'm just like, give us a few quid and fuck off.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And
With
well,
no
at that
disrespect.
point, you probably couldn't even feel it because you probably weren't feeling it for yourself. Do you know, what I'm trying to say?
Like, I'm kind of like, what are you crying for? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, but then when I look at it now, and if the tables were turned and it was one of my kids, like, I'd be bleeding devastated.
Yeah.
Like, and I've got mates of mine that their kids is in addiction, and it's a bleeding, it's a hard
I'd say it's
one.
just like tunnel vision, is it? Almost like where you just can't see anything. Like you probably don't think of anything, you don't see anything. You just see you getting the fix, and that's it.
You know, it's like that's just it. Like it's like it's very hard to explain to somebody what it's like until you've actually been there. Like you spoke earlier on about your family suffering with addiction, like an addiction issues, and I knew a few of your family members and that. But your addiction was a healthy addiction. So you got into fitness and you got into fighting, and you found something that you liked to do that wasn't destroying your health.
Yeah.
But was enhancing your health.
I only broke
Do you
my
know-
neck.
Yeah, exactly. but caused you, obviously.
Yeah, no, of
caused,
course,
come
but that's
here,
what I'm only
come here,
joking. That's
listen,
one in
but
a
here,
million, though, isn't it?
realistically, has caused you, and I say very lightly, to be where you are now.
Yeah.
To be doing this.
Yeah, yeah.
Look, if you'd have continued on fighting or whatever, you'd probably never have thought of doing this. You'd have pursued your career.
Yeah.
Probably ended up in the octagon and in the UFC and got a contract for a few fights and you know and made your way in the world in a different way. But everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, no, I
like
do believe
sometimes
that.
in tragedy there's something beautiful gonna come out of it. Like and my tragedy was different to your tragedy.
Yeah, of course.
And my tragedy just set me on a different trajectory in my life and on a different path to do something different. Do you know what I mean? And I always knew, even on me bleeding darkest days of using and being in the wrong company and being in the wrong places, there was always that thing in me that I was going, there has to be a bleeding better
More to
way to
this.
be living my life than this. This is just, like, I am just existing at the minute, like.
I suppose like that's a very conscious thought to have then, and that's probably why you are where you are, because if you weren't having thoughts like that and you were just going through life, you know, because they probably are the people who don't ever come out of it. I think you probably only came out of it because you wanted to come out of it, because you probably had you felt like that there was more to life.
Yeah, and it kind of brings you back again to what I was saying to you earlier on, is that the people that you meet along the path of your life can sometimes do so little but make such a big difference. Do you know what I mean? And I've often talked about, you know, the prison officer that I met in Mountjoy that I'm still in contact with, that without him, you know, I know for a fact if that man hadn't have put his hand out to me and asked me did I want help, that my life would have went a completely different way. Like, you know, when I knew I think the nice thing was that I knew then that I could get, when I knew I could get the help and I knew there was a harbour that I could pull the bleeding shipwreck into, I knew then there was a bit of light, like, and there was a bit of hope. And I'd start going to a couple of meetings in prison and met a couple of people that I used to use with, these people that I talked about that I hadn't seen for years. And I just knew, I knew then there was an exit door for me to get out of my misery, like. But
What age were you when you first went to prison?
I first went to prison when I was 18.
18, right? Okay.
Yeah, first went to prison when I was 18 and continued to go in and out of prison for the next 11 years. Like, yeah, the Joy, yeah.
Was that the only prison you were ever in? Or?
I was in Clover Hill. I went up to Clover Hill. I was one of the first prisoners in Clover Hill.
Right, okay.
I went up on a walk party. So we went up there, do a bit of walk up there, a bit of cleaning and whatever it was. And then back to the Joy, yeah. The Joy was kind of always there.
What's prison like? Mad?
It's a kip.
Yeah.
Come here, Pete. You know, come here, I done it.
In there stabbing people for smokes.
Yeah. What's prison like? It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's great, lovely food, much sex as you want. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a bleeding kip. Like it doesn't matter. Like, you can walk around in prison. Like, you see fellas walking around the best of clothes and all that. Like, but you're still locked up. Like,
yeah.
I mean, at 7:30 at night, like, we're all locked up. The door's locked.
Course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
a lot of self-reflection, I'd say, when you're in there. Yeah,
100%. Like, you learn to get a persona and put a bit of a bleeding shape in your walk to portray that you're something that you're not. Like, there's a lot of frightened people in prison. Like,
yeah, but to it, like, you could tell me, but obviously I've never been in prison, you know. But you probably have to.
Yeah, you do, but you see, I was kind of fucked in a sense because I wasn't into violence. Like, so my only sword that I had is that I was funny. Like, do you know what I mean? So fellas, I was kind of wide in the sense that I knew that if you got into trouble in here, it wasn't like outside that you could go over somewhere else and hide.
Yeah.
Like, you were under one roof with these people that you were making enemies with. So you had to, because I'd seen blokes been slashed up and fellas getting bad things done to them in there. So I knew I didn't want to be on the end of any of that. Do you know what I mean? And no matter how bleeding funny you are, if you do the wrong thing in there, you're going to get hurt. Like, and you know, people can only do so much for you. So I just kind of stayed with the wrong kind of people, if that makes any sense.
Is it hard to not get caught up in stuff while you're in there, though? Do you know, like, say the way you were saying, like, you didn't really want to get mixed up, and like, how is it difficult to not?
No, yeah, it is difficult to not, but you'll find a way of navigating around it. Like I did. I never got a baiting in prison or anything like that.
Right, okay.
I always kind of sidestepped it and you know, got away with it. You know, and there's loads of people that go in and never get into trouble, and you know, and then you see other people coming in from, you know, that aren't cut out for prison at all. Like, you know, people that are from affluent areas and from Dublin 4 and from really nice things that end up, and they come here. The body and the mind is an amazing thing. Like, you adapt. Like, when you're put into that environment.
You know what, I can imagine it's like, you know, because obviously, let's be honest, you're from Ballymun, I'm from town. I've seen some stuff and you've seen some stuff, and probably stuff that nobody should have to say or want to say or whatever, but I can imagine coming from an affluent area like Foxrock or Blackrock or whatever and never saying any of that, and then the next thing you know, you're bleeding shared in bunk beds with someone who's
the people that you avoided all your life and that you thought were scumbags are the ones now that you fucking are home that are gonna look after you. Like, that's some twist. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
very, very vulnerable, I could imagine.
Of course, yeah, but you know what, a lot of fellas from the areas that we're from, you know, there'll be people that take the piss out of these people to be known. You know, it wouldn't be what the person that has a few quid would think that prison was like. Do you know what I mean?
What you mean, like?
Like, they wouldn't be battered or bullied or anything like that. A lot of people would have a little bit of empathy for them, and you know.
Oh, really?
But there'd be probably a hidden agenda in it now as well. Some fellas be going, this fella has a few quid, look after him, like.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
I wouldn't be like
no, to be known.
I wouldn't be like, this is easy pickings.
No, I've never seen in all the years I was in prison anyone been took advantage of like that. They were always kind of look at.
Because isn't that the stereotypical thing, like where you say in films, like, you know, you go in and you have to stab somebody in the first week because it's either you or it's them, and you kind of have to make a point to, like, go, like, I'm not to be fucked with here.
Well, come in, I tell you, the Irish prison system, in my opinion, now the prison system has changed an awful lot since I've come out of it in 2001, right? But I think that the Irish prison system, when I was in it, because I'm only speaking from my experience,
of course,
would be like a kindergarten compared to an American prison.
Yeah, because I'm just blading watching Banged Up Abroad and all. And
Yeah, like so.
You know what I mean? Some of that stuff is
so like
heavy.
what's going on in American prisons is heavy traffic.
Yeah.
Like
the joy is probably
like there's fellas getting murdered over there like day in day out. Like you know, whereas in an Irish prison, it's a little bit more laid back.
Like Santa Ponza compared to over there.
Yeah,
You know
I'm
what I mean?
telling you, like
seriously.
even when I was in Brixton prison awaiting extradition for 6 weeks, it was heavy porridge, like a 23-hour bang up, like.
Fuck, okay.
So you're banged up
Well,
in a
just
room.
in comparison, like, that's mad.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I was telling the lads in Brixton that that I'm going to a jail where you're out like for 6 hours a day, like, and it was like telling them bleeding a fairy tale. You're all going, what? Do you know what I mean? Like, and
couldn't believe it.
not only that, I mean, the food in Mountjoy prison ain't bad food, like.
Yeah.
It's not like fucking grill or anything like that,
Right.
like. And if you know someone in the kitchen, you always have a touch, and there's a bakery in the Joy as well. So you've all like, so if you're in somewhat like fellas that go in that are into a bit of fitness that aren't into drugs. Do you know what I mean? Like you won't go hungry, like. Do you know what I mean? If someone always bleeding, you get an extra breast of chicken or whatever. Over in England, you just get what you're given.
That's it, yeah.
And that's it. Like there's
Would
no
that be a big discrepancy in the food in England and
Yeah, the food
Okay.
the food in Mountjoy prison is 100 times better than what you get in England. So the food in England on the whole is shit, like.
Yeah,
Like, you know, they're bleeding sausages and rashers and muck, like.
Yeah.
You know, and
I
Mountjoy...
I don't think it's until you go over or you leave Ireland that you're like, fuck, like, we've good food and good meat here.
Mountjoy prison, you only get a fry once a year, Christmas morning.
Really, yeah?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Like what we take for granted. So what I'm saying is that, look at, and I talked about it in the play that I done. It's not a holiday camp, right? Yeah, there's televisions in the cell. The main thing is, look, I only say in the play, like, I don't know any holiday camp where you're bleeding can only see the people that you love once a week.
Yeah, you're still stripped of your freedom, regardless. Yeah, it might be a
7:30,
little
the doors
Yeah.
banged out, and that's it.
Fuck, yeah.
And that's your punishment. Like, you're extracted from society and you're put into a regime where you're told when to piss, you're told when to come out and exercise, you're controlled by the system, like. Do you know what I mean?
But you know what? Funny, like, you know, we've talked to a few people in prison, and to be honest, like, some of them said they actually didn't really mind it in the sense that it was just no pressure and no responsibility. Like, you nearly, like, they just got up at a certain time, you got told to go to bed, and you had routine and stuff, like, you know. A lot of them told me that when it was coming to, if they were at the down a big sentence or whatever, and it was coming to the end, that they actually feared leaving, not really in an institutionalized sense, but just in the sense that, like, now it's pressure when you go out into the world to, you know, have to get a job, have to fit back into society, have to do all these
have to
things.
provide again for me family.
Yeah.
You know, whereas if you're in there, look, it's 3 hots and a cot, like.
Yeah.
You've only yourself to worry about. You're dependent on other people. So you're dependent on whether someone puts a few quid into your gra for you to go to the shop.
Yeah.
You're dependent on someone to drop you up a pair of trainers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And, like, sometimes people mightn't have the money to buy the ones that you want, like. Do you understand me? Like, I've often got dropped in stuff and I'll be on the phone going, what the fuck, like? The state of these things, like, and you're kind of going, who the fuck am I to be bleeding? I should be bleeding delighted someone's dropped me up something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But then you get out and you walk out into the North Circular Road, and, you know, for someone that's had a job or an ordinary Joe Soap that hasn't had a habit, you're then back into the role of you're providing. So you're not being provided for anymore, like, do you know what I mean? I just don't think there's enough done in the rehabilitation end of stuff for people to help them when they get out.
Yeah,
and
just like you're out on that shit.
You know, like fellas get out after been in there for years, and they, you know, they'd be lucky if they get them into a hostel. Like, people just get out with nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And the revolving door is kind of attractive that when they're in there, all their needs are met. They have a doctor, they have a dentist, they've a bleeding, you know, if you're on methadone, you have your methadone every day. You've got television, you've food.
Well, I'm going to be honest, like, if I was homeless, that would probably be more appealing to me. Like, this is somebody who's never been in prison or been homeless, thank God. But, you know, just from the outside, it would seem like I would probably rather be in prison than be homeless.
It's the overcrowding in it now. There's too many people. The capacity of the Irish prison system is bursting at the seams at the moment. Like, so when you're in an environment that's overcrowded, there's gonna be temperatures rising and people.
Yeah,
it's
okay,
gonna
I
breed
suppose,
violence and it's gonna breed an atmosphere of fucking madness. Like, do you know what I mean? And you can't contain that.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of
suppose,
stuff
yeah.
that goes on in
Very
there that
hostile.
doesn't even make the papers or doesn't get the airtime that it deserves. Like, you know, so. Look, a lot of people go in and will go in beyond that revolving door system for years. Look, I've went in and out. I done a talk there a couple of weeks ago in the training unit where I actually got out. Well, I was in the medical unit before I went to the training unit. I was in the medical unit, in the room and on the landing that I used to be on. Like, and it was like, I'm thinking about it and I'm kind of reflecting and I'm going, like, this is mad that I was once in here, like.
I know, but you know what, that must be so uplifting for all them to see, you know, and that's even, to be honest, that's what the podcast is about, you know, made in chaos, how the worst times of your life that you probably think you're going through make you into the best version, and, you know, for you to go and for them to go, like, there's Willa White, he was here, you know, because I know you don't really like to give it a big one and all, but, like, you're somewhat of a celebrity now, like, you're well known, I wouldn't know really anybody who doesn't know you now, and everybody, you're so popular and everybody thinks you're funny and whatever, you know, but for somebody to be in there and looking at you going, fuck, like, he was here and he was probably doing worse than I am, and now look what he's doing, you know?
Yeah, well, it's
because remember, we're going back to, like, what you were saying there earlier on about you hadn't even got anybody to look at and go, oh, this fella made it through, and now you're going and talking to all these people, and
yeah, it is. And like yourself, I do talks and I go to companies and I go into prisons and I do stuff around, you know, drug awareness and mental health and lived experience. Like, I'm talking about what I know. I'm talking about where I've been.
Yeah.
And even in the construction industry, like, I've worked in the construction industry with a drug habit.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? And I've worked in the construction industry in recovery. So I know what it's like to be on both sides of the fence and have the experience of it. And just to kind of share me knowledge as well when I'm doing stuff like that for companies, to let people know that are suffering. Like, I mean, I out on the floor and go, most of the time when I do stuff like that, I go, can you please put your hands up if you're a recreational drug user? And people don't put their hand up. Like.
yeah. Probably.
And then you say, people put your hands up if you're a drinker.
Yeah.
And people put their hands up. And I'm going, that's mad that there's no recreational drug users here.
yeah.
Right. Which they all know there is, right?
Yeah.
Because the CEO of the company is probably a recreational drug user. But there's a shame and there's a stigma attached to it that they don't want it, right?
Yeah.
But yet, alcohol, pound for pound, kills more
mad,
people in
isn't it?
this country
Yeah.
every year than any bleeding drug.
I know, but it's like, I think what society deems, you know, like, even say, like, weed is getting more, like, kind of legalised all over the world now, so it's not like this bad thing anymore. I think it's just whatever society deems acceptable, that's when the stigma starts to leave it, like, do you know what I mean? Because, sure, if you go to the pub with your mates and have a few drinks, you're grand, but if you have a joint or a line of coke, it's like, Jesus, what, you know, he's a drug addict, or, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, of course I do. I mean, the amount of damage that weed is causing to young people in this country as well, and not only young people, but I mean the amount of people that's ended up in psychiatric hospitals from psychosis and, you know, thinking that things is happening to them that's not really happening from smoking weed is unreal. Like the strain and the potency and the strength of what they're taking, like, is the whatever they're doing with it, it's fucking people up. Like, I was on a job today, and there was two lads in the van at the break this morning, and they were smoking it, and the smell of the stuff. And I'm literally 60 feet away from that van talking to a mate of mine. My mate goes, "Can you smell that?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I went around the corner and there's the two boys having a smoke. Like,
I just, from whatever way, when I see people smoking it or people that I know smoke it, it's just like, I just call it, I'll do it tomorrow. Because, you know, as soon as they have a joint or they smoke it. Now, I know people who are productive on it also, but that's probably 10% of the 100% of people I know who smoke it. Do you know?
yeah, but your mind, look, come here, when you put any drug into your system, your mind, is altered with a chemical, and that reaction to that drug makes you do things either slower or quicker to what you normally do. And like coke, it'll enhance your speed and your awareness and your reactions and your reflexes and all that. Sedatives like weed, smack and all that kind of slow everything down. Like, so there's an effect that it has. And I mean, if you're going into a workplace, especially a construction site, and you're taking something like that, right, wherever it might be, right, and it's going on, it's rife on not only in construction sites, but I mean in the workplace on the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, even down the IFSC, the banking sector.
Sorry to cut you off, I wouldn't really have an out. Like, I've heard a lot of stories with coke on sites.
100%.
And I thought that was like whatever about, because you know there's people smoke weed all the time, but when I heard people getting up at like 7 or 8 in the morning and taking a line of coke and then going onto a construction
I walked with a
site.
fella years ago. He met a fella at 7 o'clock in the morning to buy coke on,
Fucking hell, that's
and was sniffing it in a garage before he went to work.
mental. But
Like,
I heard that's not
and
even...
he's one of
I heard that's not even
thousands that
a
are doing
regular
that.
thing, yeah.
So like, and it's not only the sites, it's the offices, it's the banking sector, it's the hospitals. It's I used to use with a bleeding doctor out of Matter years ago. I used to use intravenously with him, like
Heroin?
yeah, and he used to go into work then.
No way.
Yeah.
Because I heard like of like.
So it's like it doesn't like there's no it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care whether you're a doctor or whether you're bleeding from, you know, a rough part of Dublin, like, or you walk on a site or whatever, like. Like, and this fella was dog wide, like, he was using his groin, like.
Right,
so you'd never know, you'd never think, you'd no track marks,
I heard
you'd know
people
nothing.
in Hollywood, like high functioning people in Hollywood, smoking it. But because correct me if I'm wrong, there's a difference between if you smoke and then you injecting it, it can really get a hold of you a lot worse, or is that not?
I just think, for me, that done it both sides, I think it's the instant hit of the injection that just gets you to the destination quicker.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? But the withdrawal's about the same. Like, whether you smoke coke or whether you snort coke or whether you inject coke, it's still going into your system. It's still going into your bloodstream. So the withdrawal symptoms is going to be just the same, no matter what way you take it. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I'm saying? But yeah, everyone's an individual, and not everybody gets strung out either. People, I've had mates of mine that have just dabbled and just went, it's not for me. Do you know what I mean? And just got away from it and just went, no, I'm not into that. You know, but some people, it just gets them, and it just bleeding. It grabs them by the neck and just drags them around the place, like.
And see, when you were in prison, because I actually, now we always talk, but I actually don't know how you got into comedy. Was that when you were, like, obviously, I always do laugh, like, I think, like, people from, I'm not just saying people from poverty-stricken areas or poor areas, but genuinely, poor people are some of the funniest people. I'm not saying people with money are less funny, but, like, I just know a lot of poor people, and they're blading hilarious, and they could be comedians, they just don't get paid for it, you know. But obviously you were always naturally funny, but when was it that you start going, like, I could make a career out of this?
Well, I was part of a programme with Des Bishop, and it's known that Des Bishop goes to meetings as well, and I met him in prison, like.
Right, okay.
Do you know what I mean? And he done a programme called Joy in the Hood. So the programme was initially meant to be about me getting out of prison and embarking on the world of stand-up comedy. But that didn't happen because for reasons that I didn't want to do that, because I'd have been branded the bleeding ex-prisoner, ex-drug user and all that. So I didn't want that. So then a new thing came out, and he done a programme, You should watch it. It's still on YouTube. He went into disadvantaged areas like Ballymun. He went into South Hill down in Limerick. He went into the Bogside in Derry. He went with the travelling community, and he taught them all how to do stand-up. And then at the end of it, 6 weeks, you went on stage and you performed.
No way.
In the area.
Unreal.
In the area where you lived, you know. And I just started from that. My mate Eric that I do the podcast, he was on it as well. Like, do you know what I mean? So that's how long I know him. And it just all started from there and just started doing gigs.
And did you have to be locked up to be in
No,
this?
no. Sure, Eric worked for IBM. Eric was a sales rep for IBM.
Right, okay.
Like, and there was other lads. There was a security guard out of the Axis in Ballymun, and there was a girl that worked just an ordinary job. And it was you could be, if you kind of thought that you were funny and you wanted to go to this joke, that was what it was about. And Des didn't even put his name on it. He just kind of advertised it, and then when the people come over, he picked 6 of them, and they done this joke, and it was on RTE. It was great crack, like, you know.
Do you think, because I do kind of often say, even with me, like, you know, I think I'm witty because when you're from, like, when you're in school or you're from a poor area or whatever, you kind of have to, like, I think I developed as a defense mechanism, you know, because I was, like, saying to someone the other day, when you're from somewhere, like, where we're from, you have to kind of get good at slagging, or you're just going to get roasted all the time. At least that's how it was for me, you know, because like I was saying, I played in small and big teeth, so it was like I was easy to slag, you know, so I got really good at slagging, but I think I only got really good at slagging as a defence mechanism. Do you think that's how it was for you, or do you think you were just naturally funny anyway? You were just always like to have a buzz, or?
I just think through all the stuff that was going on in me gaff, that being kind of funny was an escape for me as a kid. Like,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like that, you know, I would have been in talent competitions in the summer project when I was a kid, and I was in plays in school. I was in Oliver, and I was in a couple of other things, a couple
so
of
productions. To get
productions.
you out of the gaff almost.
Just kind of just to get away from what was going on. Like,
did you ever felt like it was like a diffuser for your man and dad in the gaff? Because I remember hearing Jimmy Carr talk about, like, you know, one of the questions you'd always ask a comedian is which one of their parents was depressed. That's what he said, you know, because he kind of was funny because I think his ma was depressed, and she was always really, like, just would never get out of bed, and he would always try and cheer her up and make her laugh and stuff. I remember Jimmy Carr saying that.
Yeah, for me to get on stage as a kid took me away from everything that was going on at home. So that it was like a great escape for me.
Right, okay.
I never kind of used it to diffuse out in the bleeding house. My dad kind of set the mood of what was going on in the gaff. Like, it wasn't me in any way. Do you know?
Like, it was like if he was in a good mood,
everyone was in a
okay.
good mood. Yeah. That's just the way it was. Like, so just for me, I found that when I was either in clubs or, you know, when I joined the boxing club, I was shit at boxing.
Yeah.
Football, I was never any good at football. I was never good at sport.
Yeah, right.
Do you know what I mean? I love bikes. I always loved having a bike. Like, so when BMXs came out in the early 80s, like, I had a BMX, and I loved being on a bike. Like, a bike was just it gave me a bit of freedom, and it gave me that thing. And horses done the same as well. Like, I found that I was on a horse or on a bike when I was concentrating on something else. The worries in my life and the world and the violence was just behind me. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so that was kind of where it was at for me. Spent a lot of time in St. Anne's Park with my mates on BMXs and just bleeding like it was just an escape for the day. But obviously, when the day was over, you had to come back, like, and whatever happened that night. Do you know what I mean? You kind of endured until the bleeding, crying, and the smashing of Delph kind of calmed down, and you got a few hours sleep. And I went into school then. I couldn't understand why I didn't really do well in school.
Yeah, well,
do you know what I mean?
Look, it was probably just a bleeding an achievement to get you to school.
Yeah, look, I left school at 15 years of age. Like, I had no qualifications whatsoever when I left school. Like, nothing. And I'm like, I still got through life. I don't think that bleeding getting the many points that you need in the leaving cert is going to kind of dictate where you're going to be in 10 years' time. Do you know what I mean? Like, some people go to college and the first year just isn't for them and drop out and probably do something else, or probably just not go back at all. Like,
I know, but when you're in that kind of that system, you know, even I remember like you know, being in school and that academia system, like it's like everything is geared towards like you either do this or you're gonna fail for the rest of your life. You know, and there's so much pressure put on you to get like this score on a leaving cert or whatever, and your whole self worth, like, because I remember even being in school and the teachers getting that, like, or if you don't do this, like, your whole self worth is wrapped up in how many points you get in a leaving cert or what college course you're gonna go on and do, you know. So it's good that there is people like yourself who you can openly say, and there's millions of cases now where people can see now more than ever because of the internet, but people that leave early, people that necessarily can't even read or write, and they're millionaires now, you know. But it's good for young children to see that, because I don't think your whole self-worth should be wrapped up in that.
I don't think everyone wants to go to college though.
Yeah, no, I
Do you know what I
agree.
mean, Ryan? I mean, some people just aren't cut out for college. I think, like, you know, ask the students, right, who like actually wants to go to college, and who wants to go, because other people might go, do you know what, I actually want to work on a building site, or I want to work in a factory, or, do you know what I mean? There's all, like, the world turns with the people that walk in it. No matter whether you're walking cleaning bleeding toilets, or you're in McDonald's, or you're a high flyer in a bleeding on the stock exchange, or whether you're a scientist, or whether you're, you know, a surgeon in a hospital, or whether you're a cleaner in a hospital, we all make it happen. Like,
Yeah, well,
everyone does,
yeah,
like, you know.
everybody, yeah.
And obviously society kind of deems it in a way to make you think that the surgeon is better than the bleeding
Yeah.
cleaner that's cleaning up after him.
Yeah,
But the
absolutely.
reality is that the cleaner that's cleaning up after the surgeon probably has a better lifestyle and a better quality of
Yeah,
life than what the
absolutely, yeah.
surgeon has,
Yeah.
and doesn't have the pressure that the surgeon has, and doesn't have the pressure of that person dies underneath the knife or walking out and having to give the family the bad news. The cleaner just does its job, goes home, feeds its kids, goes to the park,
Happy.
goes on a couple of summer holidays a year, and probably lives a much better life.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm
but
saying? Like, but I
like
think,
what you're saying, society kind of it's nearly looked a certain way. It's, you know what, the surgeon, sure, he's out there saving lives and he's probably making 500 grand a year, and that's what you should aspire to be. Like, but I completely agree with you. You know, as long as
I think no matter what you're going to do in life, just be your best. Do the best that
exactly,
you
yeah,
can be at it.
yeah, I completely agree.
Do you know what I mean? Like just give it your bleeding all. And if you're getting up in the morning and you're putting your feet on the ground before you're going to walk and you're saying fuck this, you're in the wrong job.
Yeah,
And don't be that person that stays there for 30 fucking years and waits till they retire because they're afraid of the fear of doing something that they don't think can be done. When realistically, if any human being puts their mind that we can achieve great things. Like,
I think people are just afraid of change, aren't they? Like, you know, like it's
yeah, of course they are. Well, come here, it's like we said earlier, if nothing changes, nothing changes. If
Exactly,
you
yeah.
want to stay in that job that you hate in the factory where you're calling your man a prick all the time, you're still going to hate that job and your man's still going to be a prick in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
So do something else.
Yeah.
Do a course at night if you're thinking it. You know, don't let people tell you or dictate what you're going to do and what you're not going to do. We're all the creators of our own destinies.
Yeah, I
We're the
agree, yeah.
one that's driving the car, like, and it's up to you what direction you want to turn that car
know.
in and where you want to go, like.
It's kind of like when people are doing a certain thing their whole life, they just think like, oh, you know, I'm too old to do this or I'm too old to do that, which obviously I don't believe in. And it's like, what's the best, you know, the best time to plant a tree is 25 years ago. The second best time is now. Do you know, and time, like what I always say to people who kind of say things like that to me is like, oh, sure, I'm too old to do this or I'm too old. And it's like, time is going to go by anyway. Do you know what I mean? And whether it's 5 years or 10 years down the line, you know, it's gonna pass anyway, so you may as well kind of get out of your comfort zone. And I think, like, for me as well, I see, because I've always had such good belief in myself from when I was very young, like, and I, you know, it's not like my family ever pushed that into me. It was kind of, I just saying different things and always believed in myself, you know. But I just think, like, in the general population, there's such a lack of belief in people's self and self-worth and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, Mickey Flanagan used to have a bit of material, and it was very, very true. Mickey Flanagan can be from a real working class place in London, like, do you know what I mean? And he's
a comedian.
Yeah, really, really good comedian. If you've never seen him, Google him.
Okay, yeah.
No, I know I had the pleasure and the privilege of gigging with him a couple of times along my comedy career. But he used to do a joke about them being in school, and the teacher asked them what they wanted to do, you know. And he's gone. One of the fellas says, "I want to drive a van," and the teacher's laughing at him. He goes, "No, you're not the fella that drives the van. He says, you're the fella that puts the stuff into the van." He says, "You'll never drive a van." Do you know what I mean? Like, and it was it's like, it brings it back to that. Like, so what do you want to do? Do you want to drive the van? Because if you do want to drive the van, you can just as easily drive the van as being the fella that puts the stuff into the bleeding van.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So it's very, very true. Like, if you're fed shy all your life and you're told that, and I believe that from being a kid in school that I was a tick, and I'd never. One of my teachers told me that I was tick, and I thought I was a comedian, right? And he came into the laughter lounge then a good few years ago, and this was a prick that used to knock the bollocks out of me in school, like, and I said it to him. I said, maybe you should have been the careers officer.
Yeah,
because you're right. I am a fucking comedian, like, do you know what I mean? And it was a moment it was a really nice moment for me, and it was an emotional moment, even though I didn't cry. Like, I could feel that. Don't ever put people into boxes and tell them that they're stupid and they're only going to be this and you're never going to do that with your life. Rise up from the fucking ashes and do more than what they're expecting of you to do.
Yeah, because that was a nice feeling, you know.
Yeah, because because human beings are capable of really, really good stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? We really are. Like, some just don't get out of that. There's people that live in the areas I live in that have never been in another county. Like,
yeah, passport to leave town. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? You know, the world's a big place, and it's like there's room for everybody in it.
No, and it is, and it's an unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate, you know, because I feel like the most small-minded people kind of like are the people who's the less travelled, like, you know, and it's not until you get out there and kind of start seeing bits of the world that you like, you know, that it really opens your mind to different cultures and what way different people live, and, you know, just stuff like that, you know. I think you need to get out there, but again, you know, some people are just so caught up in their own life that they're not even thinking about leaving Dublin or leaving town or leaving Ballymun or...
Yeah, I know that there's people that I used with years ago or drank with years ago that are still doing the same thing in the same place, talking about the same shit.
Yeah.
And none of it is going to change for them because they're just happy bathing in their own shit. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And for me, it was a case of getting out of the fucking shit swamp and getting into the shower and cleaning myself off and going, do you know what? I'm not doing this no more. I'm not coming to these places anymore. I'm not listening to this bullshit anymore. I'm not settling for this anymore. I'm not going back to prison anymore. I'm not fucking degrading myself. I'm not putting myself down. I'm not going to be the person that I was yesterday, and I'm just going to try to be a better person. And with time, perseverance, pig ignorance, stubbornness, and all that shit that goes with it, I'm a million miles away from where I am, but I'm still on the journey. Like, I'll never get to the destination, but I'm enjoying the ride. Do you know what I mean? I sit back and I look out the window and I go, do you know what? If I went tomorrow, and I know for a fact, if I checked out in the morning or checked out tomorrow, I would be so fucking happy with what I've achieved in the last 24 years for the previous 29 before it. Like, it doesn't make anything.
Because it's so nice, you know. They say the best thing anybody can have is enough, and it sounds like right now that you're really content with where you're at in your life right now.
It's the people around me. It's the people I have in my life. I have an amazing partner.
Yeah, Linda.
That,
what a woman.
She's a fucking...
She's great.
She's the RSJ. She's the pillar in my life that I aspire to be, and she's just an amazing woman. I've got good friends. Look at all my family are dead. They all died in recovery. Yeah, it's, you know, it's poxy, it's thing, but it's not an excuse to take drugs. Life sometimes, you know, you know, deals you a tough hand, and you get up and you get on with it. And my mother gave me really, really good resilience, like, and she gave me great faith that, look, come here, everything is going to be all right. And she's at home last night, on the shelf beside me, like in a bleeding box. Her ashes is there, and a picture is there, and I look at her sometimes, and I'm going to bed at night and I tell her good night and all that. Like, so these are the people that sometimes in life, you know, push you on and give you that drive and give you the strength to bleed and get up and face another day. And I have a great faith. I get down on my knees every night before I go to bed, and I give thanks for the day that I've had, and I say a prayer for the people that are still suffering. And if people are sick, I say a word for them. And I go to work in the morning, and I get in and I hold the rosary beads in my van, and I say, look, no matter what happens today, I'm not going to use, like, and I'm not going to drink. And as long as I do that, and I've got 2 beautiful kids, I've got 2 beautiful grandkids, I've got people like you in my life, I've got other people that are in my corner, you know, can name loads of people.
Yeah.
But I've got good people around me. When you surround yourself with good people, good things happen.
Yeah.
When you surround yourself with bad people, bad things happen.
That, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
So I am who I am because of the people I have around me. Like, and I'm very, very aware.
But again, you only have the people around you because you are who you are. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the older you get, Ryan, is that time is like currency. You've got to be very careful who you spend it with.
Yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean? Don't be spending your time with fucking people that aren't worth spending it with. Spend your time with people that enhance who you are, and you can enhance who they are. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and give your time to the right people. Because I find, for me personally speaking, is that a lot of people want to see you doing well, but they don't want to see you doing as well as them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And sometimes the people that you think are your friends are the ones with a bleeding dagger underneath their jacket, like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not, come here, not everybody.
No, of course.
I'm not saying that, but there is people sometimes like yourself, or you know, in your tough times, that you think were there for you. And I'm kind of reverting back to where we were in the beginning of the podcast, saying they're the people that'll abandon you. And I've had times in my recovery where people have, you know, invertedly kicked me in the fucking mouth, like. Do you know what I'm saying? And when I'm recovering from the sting of that one, there's someone lining up to give me another one, like.
Yeah.
So sometimes in times, tough times in your life, it's a great leveler. It's a great level playing field to see, right, who is actually fucking who here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well,
who's here for me and who's not.
You only really find that out in tough times. Really.
100%. Everyone wants to jump on the bandwagon when you're doing well.
And I'm sure you even have to watch that now.
They all want to scut out the back of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so.
Well, it's easy to be down, the champagne dripping from the ceiling. Do you know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, that
and
was...
the piss is dripping from the bottom of your trousers.
Yeah.
See who's there then.
Nobody's there. But yeah, no, that was a great chat, pal, and thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm really, really delighted for you. I really am. I bleeding. Come here, you know, I've loads of time for you, and I'm always here for you. And I believe you've a great journey ahead of you, man.
Yeah,
and,
I appreciate
enjoy the
that,
ride while you're on it, you know.
Yeah, no,
someday
thanks.
we all gotta get off.
Well, yeah, look, you never know when their time's up, so live it while you're here, you know.
Yeah, exactly, man.
So, no,
Thanks
thanks
so
very much for having us.
You're welcome.
On, pal. Thanks very much, everybody.